or go to Facebook from your computer or tablet. Go to the RJ Washington fan page at facebook.com/TV33WHCR, the one with the blue WHCR logo on the site. Like us. Click the word video with the red tag that says live next to it. Then click the share button at the bottom of the video player and select start or watch party. Invite whoever you want. Your party will be recorded and archived for playback anytime you want. 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. At the end of the month, the viewer that has the most people at their watch party will be invited on the TV show live. Let's have a party.
As we know, graphic design provides agency call for professional graphic design services from established companies to startups and individuals. Creating a simple logo to complete rebranding and delivering visual communication with good media. Everything SOS graphic design does has a single unifying objective.
Getting your sleep before you get cloud. See, she waking up now. Yeah. Yeah. She got her income tax.
I wish she asked about if she had some
Okay, how can we specifically here with in that located at 18070 Our new surrounding spaces with active parking, Wi-Fi, and all brand new energy items.
She took out what she needed, I guess. How many did she get? Okay. No problem. But she got 2 checks. Okay. Well, she made one out to the temple.
And more. Please feel free to visit us on the web at www.sistersfaith.com or call.
I see. So she just had them make it out to the temple. That's where. That'll work. As long as it don't create no problem. Okay.
Now you can watch WHCR TV33 on Fire.
That'll work.
Get all of your favorites. Stay informed.
All right. Put the biggest things together that we got. So I'm gonna start when the mother starts. We're gonna start taking care of them taxes.
More information, go to fire6tvnetwork.com or call us at 313-866-612. WHPR TV33 of Washington Broadcasting Company. We would like to invite you to help support the efforts of Unity and Rebuilding. Visit the website at www.unityandrebuildingfunds.com. That's www.unityandrebuildingfunds.com. We often hear how we need to work together to rebuild the city, and we're actually doing it. You can make online donations.
Yeah, last time link.
For more information, 313-866-0000.
Beg your pardon?
You're watching WHPR.
Oh, yes, ma'am. Okay. No, it's no problem. It's no problem. Thank you, though. All right.
So a lot more positive. 107.3 FM Charlotte, Amalia, Virgin Islands. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of WHPS, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.
It was still up on YouTube. I can put it flash.
Brothers and sisters, are you tired of reading the Holy Scripture and not really understanding what you read? And if you're reasonably sure your attempt to that which you feel you know, someone that has a different view than your own, then let's talk with one another.
The recording has started. This conference is being recorded.
Every Wednesday at 9 p.m., Friday at 9 p.m., and Sunday at 12 noon. On WHPR TV Detroit Live, 88.1 FM, WHPR, why don't you call and discuss the Holy Bible, and if you have one, the Holy Quran, and come to an agreement about the Holy Scriptures and their true meaning. You can call it live on the air at area code 313-868-4336, 313-868-0342, or 313-868-0351. That's 313-868-0351. 313-868-0342 or 313-868-0351. And now, let's go live to a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just. I greet all of you who are hungry and thirsty for righteousness. I greet you all with the greeting words of peace. May Allah's salam alaikum. I want to say that before I go into the Mueller report, there have been numerous people asking when is the theater going to open and that kind of thing. And I'll read to you some of the comments that people had to say. Negative things. It says Mercedes Smith. This is the name on here. This been happening since I was 9th grade. Another one is Leisha Monqui, Monqui. Monique. Okay. You said that's Monique? Okay. Leisha Monique Quinn. Since I was 8th grade. Mercedes Smith says, well, I knew it was around that time frame. And then they got laughter. I guess that's laughing. Some smiley faces or whatever. Laughing faces. Leisha Monique Queen says, I done graduated from high school and college, working in earthing, ERR, huh? Oh, and everything, working in everything. Okay. And that's all they got finished? And there's laughing faces. Travis Blanton says, too funny. Next one, Robert Green says, PG-13 only. And he knows, don't he? Then he says, well, that's the one thing about people know that I would not have something in there that I teach against, as far as getting up there with a bunch of naked women and stuff like that, and cursing and swearing and going, hey, I'm not going to sit up there and bring that into the town while I'm telling them we need to do better. Then it says, Juanica Lachelle, where we going to park? Well, that's a good question. That's a legitimate question. And it's in Brendan Lee. They've been talking about that boo-boo for 10 years. Watch how long it takes until it finally opens. Shanicia Evans. About time. LOL. Then James Cordero Simon. Said, they've been talking about this movie theater since we were toddlers. Laugh out loud. He put LOL too. And it says, Dre McDonald, I guess everybody gonna park at New Deals. And then put laughter faces. Movie theater with no parking. No parking lot. Laugh out loud. Well, you know, I guess that's what the face mean there. Victor T. Wyatt Prater. Also, I don't want to play devil's advocate, but I ain't giving those folks no props. And why people in Fayette call them Muslims? What are they really? Then it says Sharika Shuniz. Wonder will they be getting new movies or one of those theaters that show the old ones for like $5? You know, that is typical of the slave mind. When they see their brother or sister trying to do something positive, they will stand back and they will make fun. And that is something that followed us from slavery. And that's why I read it. I mean, I'm used to that. In the first place, I'm not begging white people for grants. Me and my followers, we gonna put up a theater. And that sign that you see lit up out there tonight, that sign costs nearly $40,000. Because I did not want our people to have second class and second hand. We got about a 12 or 13. We got about a 12 or 13 $1,000. Don't panic. It'll come on in a minute. We got about a 12 or 13 $1,000 break because one of the prices that they gave us was about $50,000 or more. And pardon me. And so we got it down to about between 34 and 37,000. And so unlike you, I'm not rich like y'all, you see. We have to work and get the money and then we put it in there. But the one thing everybody that knows me knows that I don't say I'm gonna do something and don't do it. It might take a while because I don't half do things. The chairs for that theater, just a moment. The chairs to go in that theater is going to cost a little over $100,000 and some. So yeah, it's going to be a while before it get open. But as you can see, I'm doing what I said I was going to do. Like I told you, I got time. Maybe it'll happen after you done died or something. I don't know. But you notice my age don't, time ain't against me. I've had people tell me all the time, you still look the same. You got simply gray hair. Well, I've told you you're going to wake up pretty soon and realize who's standing there talking to you. But that's all right. You know, all of you who got so many negative things to say, I got one question for you. What are you doing? What are you doing I heard you say you got a job. Yeah, that's what the white man brought you here for, was to give you a job. And what's that about? Oh, that was their power. Oh, okay. Well, I know our generator ain't got no business doing that. You all pardon us a minute. We is that us or them? Okay, that's our generator. All right. I want you to know that I'm not a person who looks at my own people and see them trying to do something positive and then make fun of them. I'm not that. I told you, you run around here calling yourself black, but you wouldn't even be calling yourself black if it wasn't for us the Muslims. Ask your grandmama. Ask your granddaddy. They'll tell you, if they be truthful, the only reason you calling yourself black is because the Muslims is the one that gave you that. The white man called you nigger, Negro, and that's exactly what he made out of you. A stingy, selfish, hateful individual. And you proved it with all of these insults to someone who ain't tried to do nothing but raise your respectability. That's all I've tried to do, was raise your status in the eyes of the world. And what I get for it, this is what y'all done raised up out there. You produce disrespectful children. That's because you're a disrespectful adult. But soon you're not going to be able to disrespect anybody, because Allah going to take your mind. Keep on. You'll find out. That's the kind of stuff that hangs out on Facebook. You see? But it's decent people on there. I'm not saying everybody on there is. I've had many people that are happy that we are trying to bring something into Fayette instead of talking about moving as quick as we can. So, I'm so thankful that we're able to get this far with that theater. I want to show you something. If you want to, thank you. Just put it in there and load it. If you want to be the judge about how long something taking, well, how would you know how long it should take, since you ain't never built anything? They look at white people put up things. I admire Caucasian people. They are hardworking people. They don't stand around begging anybody for anything. And they encourage one another to do and to build and to have and to achieve. You never hear white people getting out in the public or in private, sitting around criticizing somebody who's doing something and building up something. You never hear them do that. I can understand you critiquing me if you was doing something and you done did it. And I'm not talking about white people. I'm talking about people that look like me. What other black people in this country can make the boast that they are doing anything like we are doing? So what other black group do you know of? This is not me, no one-man band. This is me and other black people working together, putting our pennies together to do something constructive. I pity you. And, you know, like I said, that's why I don't tell you much. You know, because I know who I'm dealing with. You know, I tell you what I'm going to do after I done did it. It's just like while you were sitting up talking about what was going on when you was a toddler. Well, let me see here. Is that it?
Yes, sir.
All right, so. Talking about what was going on when you was a toddler. Just a moment. What's happening here? Oh. Just a moment. You know, people don't know where we brought that place from, but I keeps records. You see, we had to tear down a building that was already there, knock a hole in the side of another one, excavate the seating area for a twin cinema while you was in what you say while you was doing what? In school. Now, you done been to school, came out, been to college. How come you ain't back in Fayette putting up something? Other than insults to someone who's trying to put up something. So, y'all hold on a minute. Which one did we lose? Okay. Just a moment. I kind of figured that would be the one. You all in the conference room here. Kind of hold on. I got to put the high def conference room back in the meeting. Hold on.
We're sorry, your call did not go through. Access code is 6. There are 13 participants in the conference.
So I'm not gonna spend no whole lot of time on that, but I just want to show you a little quick clip of what we've been doing in the way of working. You see, if you had been here when America, the United States, first began, it took them 200 years to declare that they was going to separate from England and become free. And then they had to be then they started building them a nation. And so by that count, I mean, from 1930 to 2003 was 100 years. And so if it took me another 200 and another 100 years, or so another, let me see, this is what, 2019, so there's 16, That'd be 84 years. If it take me another 84 years, I still ain't did it took no longer than it took white people to decide to go and get free from England. I guess you would have been there telling George Washington them, what's taking you so long? Is that right? So, I don't pay you no attention. You are like them who didn't want their freedom, and George Washington them left them behind. Do you understand? There you go. I'm not trying to force you to help us. If you and your parents had supported our businesses there, we would been done had the theater up. I can't afford to hire nobody to work because we ain't got no money. So I have to get in there and work. So pardon me if I ain't working fast enough. And if you don't never show up in there, that's not going to change nothing. There's people all outside of this area been asking, well, when it's open, you let me know. So I ain't sitting up grieving over you. I mean, you can talk back if you want to. Unmute your phone and tell me what's on your little mind. Let me show you something. You can see, brothers are getting my foundation ready for me to get up in there and start framing. I'm waiting on them to do that. And once they get that done, then I'll get up here and start framing. And once I get it framed up, then the brothers will put me a roof on there. That's Brother Curtis over there laying some of these concrete blocks so that we can put he's going to go all the way up to this wall here. Because it's so close to the other building. I don't want to have to try to be working inside of there. So he's going to go all the way up to the wall there. And Brother Mark is, the concrete finisher. And Brother Calvin, he's learned how to do concrete finishing and framing and some of everything, working with Brother Mark. And so I thank Allah for these brothers. So as you can see, we are getting ready to come on with this building. So this will give you a kind of view of what it is. Now, this is going to be the entrance. And this will be this area here. This area here is going to be the ticket booth. Then, as we go in, this will be a double door entrance here. Then over here to the left, we knock the hole in this other building as we're going to connect these two. When we go in here, there'll be concessions in here, popcorn, and that kind of thing. And got the foundation ready. And Brother Curtis, and put up this block wall on one side to keep us, because it's so narrow in between these two buildings that I decided to keep from having to go in between there and try to work on the wall. Just want to go and put up a block wall there, and then I don't have to worry about the outside of it. So now it's my turn to get here and start framing up. Brother Mark put a nice rampway here, like I asked him to. And this is the ramp leading up into the theater. And as you can see, this is going to really be nice. Coming up. We thanks to Brother Morris and Brother Calvin and Brother Curtis, they getting these blocks laid. And this is these are the two brothers who laying these blocks. Brother Curtis is down there at the automotive shop right now. That's Brother Morris. And Brother Calvin. Now, I mean, yeah, I'm happy too. I'm happy to have brothers that don't mind working. They work there, then go and work someplace else to make money, to come back and put it in there, and then go work there some more. And that's how it goes. And the more you do that, the more you start realizing how hard this white man done worked to build what he have, and it make you respect him even more. Nobody giving us nothing. I don't want nobody to give us nothing. Tell you what, watch what happens when you give somebody a car as opposed to when they buy it themselves. Whatever you give people, they can't really appreciate it like someone who had to go get it for themselves. Just like when I was growing up, James Brown, because the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's teachings was everywhere. James Brown came out with that song, I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Just open up the door and I'll get it myself. You see, all you people out there that think that you're doing something great by giving your children everything instead of letting them work and teaching them work ethics, you ruining them. Let them help you build what you got. Then if something happened to you, they help build it. They'll know how to help. They'll know how to keep it going. So these brothers, you heard me say, Brother Curtis was down there at the automotive shop, working there, and then coming back and laying the blocks and laying the bricks. What you supposed to do if you ain't got no money to pay people to bill for you? You can either sit down and wish, or you can say, well, I'm going to try to do it myself. And when you start doing it yourself, you'll discover that God will help you. He helping us. You notice anything I say about somebody, if they call me out for it, I'll answer. You notice all these people got something to say about me, they can't. I call them out, they don't show up. Some of my children, just a moment, high def again. Okay. You all hold on. We done, every time it rains here, something happened to the phone. So y'all hold on. It ain't the phone company. They ain't doing that. That's just these lines that trees be falling on, and they be out there trying to fix it. So I'm not gonna say AT&T is doing that. So hold on.
Dan.
Uh-oh. Now we done dropped the other line, so hold on.
Access code accepted. There are 14 participants in the conference. The recording has started. This service. Access code accepted. There are 31 participants in this conference.
Okay, you all hold on.
Being recorded.
Okay. It's it's raining out there. But we're gonna do the best we can. I usually would ask Allah to let it stop, but I think this time we need that. Sometimes people be scheming and going on, and they need something to stop them. So we're gonna leave it alone and let Allah do what He need to do to keep us at peace. So now, but as I was saying, you see what we that theater didn't just happen to come up there. We had to build it. Now it was a theater there before. That part that you see there with the kind of ugly blocks and stuff, that used to be a theater. And so we decided to add a second side to it. And you'll see in a minute. And I think you all agree these brothers doing a fine job in here. Okay. Now this one, we just added. And this is going, this wall here has got to go all the way around and up. We're going to go, that'll be an emergency exit right there. It's going to go all the way up, equal to this. And this will be a cinema, and then right over next door. As you can see, this one was the original cinema, and we gutted it out. Don't worry, when it's finished, it's going to be a beautiful, state-of-the-art cinema here. And I just wanted you to see that we coming on with this. And this is where we are right now. This area here is going to be the entrance, where you buy your tickets. Then over here, going to be concession. I'll put a restroom for women and men over here, but most of you get popcorn and all that, all of this. Over here will be we're about to go on and start walling this up inside of here. And, as you can see, I put the archway in here. It's all closed in now. And it's ready to, now the buildings are joined. And as you can see, we poured that arch over there with cement. I don't have to worry about that leaking now. And the wall is up. Getting ready to come on around here with the laid block. That's one of the things that takes so long, is that once the blocks are laid, then they fill them with cement. just poured cement all down through there. So that's one solid cement wall now. And it's got rebar in it. Reinforcement bars is what that's really. The rebar for sharp. But as you can see, the brothers have did a wonderful job on it. And that's Brother Calvin up there now, still working on that. And Brother Morris is over here now cleaning up, getting ready to move to another area here. But we're about to go on and get this place up here. So these brothers is the ones that put this on. Now you can see we got the walls completed here. And getting ready to put the wall in there for the screen. Has an emergency exit back there with a wheelchair ramp on it. And big change in here now. He's in here. And that way we can have what you call, sometime we'll have talent shows and stuff like that up here rather than a movie. And if we want to have, when we have our next Safety Day gathering, we'll probably be meeting in here. But also, when the mayor or the city, the supervisors or someone want to talk to the community, it will be available for them to do that too. As I told you, I'm not interested in continuing to practice disunity and self-hatred and all that kind of thing. Anything that I'm about, anything that I'm connected to, my people are welcome there. And if we get our life from our people, then our first allegiance should be to our people. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, self first. Before you start talking about what you want to do with the whole world, you need to learn to do something with your own people. And so that's what we're doing. Now I know some of our people ain't gonna appreciate it. Well, there's some Caucasian people that don't appreciate the United States of America, but the majority of them do, and they are patriotic and they love their country. And that's with all nations. You're always going to have some dissatisfied, generally lazy people who want something for nothing, and who, when they see you being industrious and doing something, it shames them to the point that they really hate you for making them manifest that they are just lazy. You understand? So, a person that don't want to work, you'll notice they won't hang around nobody who works. The successful people, they hang around people who are successful. Lazy people hang around lazy people. You understand? So, is sitting up talking you down, talking your own brothers and sisters down who trying to do something instead of standing back whining about what the white man won't give you and but give yourself something. If I was the white man, I would tell you, look, you over here talking about what I won't do for you. Look at all these wealthy black people that you got out here. Huh? Why don't you go to them and ask them to help you? Then you say, well, I can't talk to them. Well, whose fault is that? Then you see one of your brothers starting to talk to him, and instead of you supporting me so that I could go on and make something happen with us and them, all you got to say about me is hateful things. How many of y'all have interviewed people like Billy Paul? How many of you all talked with people like Dr. Cosby, Bill Cosby, and whatnot? You know why they don't want to talk to you? It's because you beg. They know what you want. They know about before they leave, you're going to be begging. And I don't beg nobody. If you don't have sense enough to see my value, if you don't have sense enough to see that I have something in my head that could benefit us all, whatever you give me is like investing in blue chip stock. It ain't going to do nothing but pay off. I defy you to find somebody that can say they gave me and it was they sorry they gave. Sorry for what? Look what I gave you back. Well, it took long enough. Well, what did you have going that was that was going to do better? What you got going that's going to do better than what we are doing? I'd really love to see you come in there without white people helping you. And let me see you put up something. Especially something on the level that I'm putting it up on. You don't see me just go in a empty building and slap some paint on the wall and put some linoleum on the floor talking about I'm open for business. If I cannot do equal or better than what the best in civilized society is doing, I won't do nothing. You walk in any place that I put up for you, that I had anything to do with, and you'll have to bear witness that you can put our businesses in any white community and it will fit. Well, he's the standard. I have to say him. He's the one that you have to, if you want to know how advanced you are, then look at one who is advanced. Certainly, I'm glad that he's a model for me. Give me something to strive for. I ain't putting up skyscrapers yet, but give us time. And there won't be something like what he got there that fall over in the earthquake. No, I got some ideas on that. They had a good start with them pyramids. The base should always be wider than the other structure and get smaller. That way, if it shake, it can't go nowhere. A whole lot of shaking going on. But anyway, I'm not a person who don't learn from wherever I'm at. Most people, they think that just because you get a certain age, that all of a sudden you ain't supposed to be able to learn that. I can learn. I'm still learning something. I ain't never gonna stop learning. See what that air is doing. I hope we ain't messed up our air conditioner with this power doing what it's doing. What's it doing? What's it on? Oh, good. Well, turn it back on, man. You did right turning it off now. Don't forget it's off. So I just wanted you to see that, it took time to get that building where it's at now. And hard work, W-O-R-K, not B-E-G-G-I-N-G. Or like so many of you, we can get a grant. We can get a grant from who? They ain't got nerve enough to be jumping up in his face talking about you his equal. I don't blame him. I tell you to get out of my face too. I'm not, you don't see me jumping up in white people's face begging them for nothing. And they respect me. Watch this. We're coming along fine. It takes time, and most of all, it takes money. But I think you're really gonna be proud of this when you see the finished product. And got the farm just about ready to pour the slab that's gonna be for the stage here. And they're over there working on some steps here that's gonna lead up to it. That's Brother Morris. And that's Brother Calvin. You'll see them two brothers there been doing all that work. Watch how they got them blocks up. Them and Brother Curtis. It was three brothers that did all this work. Before I could get in there and do anything, they had to get the place ready. Now watch this. And soon this will all be concrete. As you can see, it's been filled with dirt now. And he got his rebar and everything around. We got a place we're gonna put a little laboratory in there. That's what them pipes are that you see sticking up out the ground. But this is gonna definitely be a very nice theater when it's finished. We go ahead and start on this walling this up, and got the sand. And here's the mortar mix covered up, and we're getting ready to go ahead and start walling it up. The brothers had already laid the first course. Brother Curtis was up here from the automotive shop today. He works at 2 jobs now. He's been up there, him and Brother Morris and Brother Calvin. And Brother Morris over there. They getting ready to fill those blocks with cement. And that's Brother Calvin. And as you can see, the first course, it's been set in there. And And tomorrow they're gonna go on and run with that wall once that's set. Once Brother Curtis had to work here, he's the block mason. He works here during the morning, then he gets on back up to the automotive shop and work there in the evening. But I'm gonna try to go and complete that wall in there today. I gotta add the top to it. Those are 2x10s treated, all right? Now, as you can see, Brother Curtis and Brother Morris over here now, working on the, putting the wall up. And that's Brother Curtis there. He's the one that's our block mason. As you can see, they came on up with that wall. He's working his way all around until they're just about halfway there, man. So all praise is due to our Lord. The stage area. So as you can see, it's coming on nicely. Now just about done finished up that putting those 2x10s in there. We're gonna put this plate on top of it when we get ready to put the roof on there. And this is the back of the other cinema. As you can see, we didn't put no stage area on it.
Say what?
Getting ready to, pour some more cement down in these walls. And that's what he and Brother Calvin, they done, him and Brother Calvin and Brother Curtis done finished the blocks. And now they're filling them with cement. Every one of the walls, which I'm gonna show you in a few minutes, was done like they've been to do this. Now you'll see what's kind of taking a while. If we had the money, I would go and get a pump truck that could just, pump that cement up there and, fill them walls. But since we don't have the money, we using buckets. Now, this is not something that I was doing. This is something that the brothers did. My job starts after we get the roof and stuff on it. Then I get inside and do the decorating and fill it and whatnot. As you can see, now Brother Calvin will take it. He dump it into the other bucket. Now he'll pour it down into the wall. Brother sending him another bucket up there. And they just about finished here. It's coming along good. Got a little stack of lumber there. do the roof. The brothers then started putting up the rafters on the roof. And as you can see, it's coming along with Brother Morris and Brother Calvin. They doing this. And as you can see, one section is ready for the, we're going to put 10 on the roof. And we're going to have to get back up there and do nothing else to it. And it match up with the rest of the town. These are the brothers that's doing this. Brother Calvin and Brother. So as you can see, you sitting up out there running your mouth, you don't know how much work it took to put in this place to get it where it looks now. You know, foolish people always think they can judge things that they have no knowledge of. That is the worst thing you can do, is make judgments without knowledge. No matter how long it's going to take. It's going to take as long as it takes. That's how long it's going to take. I know one thing. It ain't going to take me as long as it'll take you, because you haven't even started on nothing. And those are my people who understand that I'm not letting being poor stop me from going to work. They respect me for that. And I'm pretty sure I done gave quite a few of them some ideas. Just remember this. No matter how much money you have to buy how much lumber, you ain't gonna be able to put up, if it's just you working, you ain't gonna be able to put up a one board at a time. So if I buy 10 2x4s a day, I don't need no whole pile of them out there. So I go and buy what I can afford. And then I'll go from there. That beat sitting around whining. So now, since ain't nobody saying nothing, now I'm going to leave that alone. See, I always have the answer to somebody who all they can do is sit around and criticize you. So, anybody can criticize. You know why? That don't take no work. That don't take no money. That don't take nothing but a bad understanding and a hateful mind. And as far as you talking about giving me some props, I don't need no props from you. Jesus give me my props. Moses give me all the props I need. All of them told me that I'm God. Now, what more props do I need? And you must halfway believe it, because you ain't coming in here talking crazy to me no more. I told you that I'm not going to take that off of you no more. If you think I'm bluffing, unmute your phone and insult me again. Now I want to say, now it's not an insult for a person to question you and ask you questions about what it is you're talking about. That's not insulting you. If you said something that created a question in somebody's mind, you have no right to get angry when they question you, when you the one created the question. That's what a learned question is. It's a question that you wouldn't have had unless that person said something and they taught you that question by what they said. Any teacher that's worth his salt will never get angry with you for questioning them about what they just said. You understand? Because they know that that's what questions are supposed to be on. If there's any questions, that's what this teacher means when they finish saying something and said, "Now, are there any questions?" He's talking about on anything that you heard him say. And if you don't get no questions, sometimes you say, "Oh, so you ready, huh? We'll give you a test then." Then everybody's hand go up. You see, I mean, we were so silly that when a student asked questions, the class clown would say, "You old dumb thing, you don't know that?" And he probably didn't know it either. So rather than be called an old dumb thing, you let yourself stay dumb by not asking the question that you needed the answer to. Anytime that I want to question something, I ask. And I don't care who listening, and I don't care what they think. And if you smart, you better get that way. Sitting up worrying about what somebody gonna think about you because you got sense enough to get some understanding of something that you didn't understand. You watch all of these class clowns and what they amount to later on. Then you will understand. So anyway, did anybody have something they wanted to ask me before I move on to the?
So you have a question, not only the topic you covered so far.
Yes, what is the question?
But they asked, can you explain what Revelation chapter 11 verses?
Well, I tell you what, you hold those questions until I'm out of the Mueller report, and then all of those questions is not. Yes, I can explain all of the scripture. That's what I'm here for. The book tells you that when he come, the Spirit of truth, he will guide you into what? Well, that means Allah gonna give me the understanding of it all, and I'm gonna give it to you. So, but I did tell you, okay. So what Revelation what?
Chapter 11 verses 1 through 2.
Chapter 11 verses 1 and 2. Those are the scriptures are never such that you get understanding by reading two verses. They always, you have to go to get more verses to explain what you read. It says, "And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, and the altar, and them that worship therein. But the court which is without the temple leave out, and measure it not. For it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 42 months." This, when it says leave the Gentiles outside, well, the Holy Scriptures is, as the book says, 603 The Holy Quran's number is 600 because it came 600 years after the gospel of Jesus. Muhammad came approximately 600 years after Jesus. The Holy Bible has 66 books in it. And to measure a thing is to be able to sum it up. And that is what Allah have given me to guide you into the understanding of. And that is the spiritual knowledge. Those on the outside of the spiritual knowledge is the jinn and all those who follow him. And that is what the scripture says. On the outside is everyone that loveth and maketh up a lie. You understand? On the outside are dogs, and they that loveth and maketh up a lie. This is in the book. The optimum word is the outside. That's in Revelation. What chapter is that? Where it talks about on the outside of dogs. Chapter 22, and we're going to read the 14th and 15th verse. It says, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the family tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. As the messengers of God are the gates to righteousness. And even them, they didn't get into the teaching you the understanding of these scriptures. It's just like when you enter into a gate, it's generally because a house is sitting up in there, and it's a yard that's fenced off. You understand? And so you enter in through the gates, and then it says into the city. For without, don't measure the outside. For on the outside are what? Dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers. Whoremongers are pimps. And murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and makes up a lie. Huh? Do you understand? So I'm not here to get involved in you. That's why the young man stopped in the middle of the street today and asked me, is y'all going, what kind of movies you going to show in there? I said, don't worry, it ain't going to be nothing you got to shut your eyes at. And, I'm not here to help you practice evil. I'm here to offer you an alternative to it. Not here to force you to do nothing. I am here to offer you something better. If you don't want it, well, I wouldn't care if you paid me $1,000 for every scene in them movies that's unfit for righteous people to be sitting up looking at. I would not bring it in there. It's just like, I know how much my people love pig. My people eat up some hog. But you won't eat up no hog I'm selling you, because I ain't going to sell you none. And I wouldn't care if you paid $10 a sandwich for it. I know it's lots of money you can make off of poisoning our people, but I'm not going to poison you. Allah told me, don't eat it and don't touch the dead carcass of it. If I got to get rich by hurting somebody, I don't need to be rich. I'd rather stay poor. Now you suit yourself. I'm speaking for me. Do you understand? I do have a right to my feelings, right? Okay, I was just wondering. Okay. Now, let's get into the Mueller report. Back into it. Let me get back to page 3. 52. Almost forgot what page when I shut it down. I like to mess around there. And come on here. Yeah. He exerted executive privilege. a farce. Nothing but a farce. I mean, how can you exert executive privilege over over something that's already been released? I mean, the report was what the special counsel was sent there to find out. And if you're going to exert executive privilege over the report, then it was the same as saying that you're not going to let Congress and the public know what the report was that they hired the man to go do. I mean, what are you talking about? That's obstruction, period. Well, he's been obstructing up to now. You don't expect him to stop now, do you? If you won't stop him, if Congress won't stop him, they keep talking about Congress got rights to this. Congress got power to do that stuff if they would go on and exercise it. But, you know, what can I say, man? I ain't finna keep on going back and forth with crazy folks. Just a moment. I want to go back to this last statement that he made. He says, I'm on the second paragraph on page man, I'm sure glad I paid attention in school when I was there. Anyway, I know what a paragraph is. Well, I mean, really, boy, it's bad when you didn't pay attention. The second paragraph on page 352. That's where we left off. Let me. There's something else I wanted you to see before I do that. I guess I can get to it now. I pull. Now, I wanted you to see that, people talk real tough and whatnot. That's how they come at you. They come at you like Rush Limbaugh and all them people. You notice the only people they talk to most of the time is folks who agree with them. Huh? Now, here's a good example of that with this little scene from Enter the Dragon. Now, this is a scene from Enter the Dragon where Bruce Lee was about to fight this boy. And watch what Bruce tell him when the boy break the board in front of him.
Boards don't hit back.
You see, you know what they call people who just listen to other people talk that agree with them? They call them sounding boards. You understand? Boards don't hit back. Do you understand? But you notice when they come in here, you remember what I did to Geno Jennings? That's what happens when somebody can talk back to you. See, he get up there and say all them lies and make up stuff, tried to say that black people having what they call the term slave took on a whole new meaning in America here. That wasn't slavery that was done to us. Those was crimes against humanity. Even Hitler didn't take on the Jews as his property. Huh? That man stand up and put his hand all in your mouth, offering you up for sale, men and women. You don't want to talk to me about that. You better be glad I know the whole truth. But anyway, let's get back to Mr. Mueller. This is in paragraph 252. In August 2017, Cohen began drafting a statement about Trump Tower Moscow to what? You say the screen froze. Well, let's unfreeze it. I tried to give myself enough time. I was looking at the clock there, trying to give myself enough time where I could finish 20 pages. And usually within an hour and a half, I can pretty much do 20 pages with commentary and all, you know. You know, I'm not going to spend too much time in commentary because I know y'all, you know, you're not a bunch of dummies. You can't be no dummy and listen to me. It just don't work. You know, I'm pretty sure most of y'all do like I do. You know, you hear something that's said and, you know, might make you a little mental note or make a note and you go look it up. I know I do. Okay, let me look at your screen there. I'm the kind of person who I want to know what somebody's saying to me. Most of the time, if I'm talking to a person and they say something that I don't understand, I say, "What that word mean? What you saying there?" I'm still gonna look it up. But you know, don't never think that I'm gonna just take something you say and run with it. You know, you got to earn my trust. So when you tell me what it means, I'm gonna go look it up, and it better mean that. Don't you gonna hear from me later? But anyway, anyway, well, I'm just telling you, brothers and sisters, it's time that, you know, just like with me, a lot of times I give you the meaning of a word that ain't in the dictionary. But the way I break it down for you, you know that that's what it means. They just hadn't put it in the dictionary. You see? It's just like when you say Caucasian. You know, that most people, they don't even think of the term concoction. But a concoction is something that you make up. Caucasian, a made Asian. I can tell you the root of it. I can tell you where it comes from. You know? And so there's a lot of things that I say to you that you can't challenge me on because it's written. If you try to accuse me, well, you gave me some new definition there. Well, I make all things what? There you go. Now, if you can't condemn what I said, then shut up. I'm the first one that told you the root of the term vegetable. Ain't nobody never told you that meant vegetation that's edible. I told you where it came from. Because we gave you English. You didn't give us English. You hear him argue? If I hadn't told you what planet mean, you'd have never knew. So just shut up. I don't want to hear it. He says, in August 2017, Cohen began drafting a statement about Trump Tower, Moscow, to submit to Congress along with his document production. The final version of the statement contained several false statements about the project. First, although the Trump organization continued to pursue the project until at least June of 2016, the statement said, quote, the proposal was under consideration at the Trump organization from September 2015 until the end of January 2016. By the end of January 2016, I determined that the proposal was not feasible for a variety of business reasons and should not be pursued further. Based on my business determinations, the Trump organization abandoned the proposal. That was a lie. Second, although Cohen and candidate Trump had discussed possible travel to Russia by Trump to pursue the venture, the statement said, quote, despite overtures by Mr. Sater, I never considered asking Mr. Trump to travel to Russia in connection with the proposal. I told Mr. Sater that Mr. Trump would not travel to Russia unless there was a definitive agreement in place, end quote. Third, although Cohen had regularly briefed Trump on the status of the project and had page 353, the status of the project and had numerous conversations about it, the statement said, quote, Mr. Trump was never in contact with anyone about this proposal other than me on 3 occasions, including signing a non-binding letter of intent in 2015, end quote. Fourth, although Cohen's outreach to Peskov in January 2016 had resulted in a lengthy phone call with a representative from the Kremlin, the statement said that Cohen did, quote, not recall any response to my email to Peskov, nor any other contacts by me with Mr. Peskov or other Russian government officials about the proposal when he had received a response, end quote. Excuse me, I interjected that wasn't part of it. It was in quote after, let me read that again. Quote, not recall any response. Cohen, the statement said that Cohen did, quote, not recall any response to my emails to Peskov, nor any other contacts by me with Mr. Peskov or other Russian government officials about the proposal, end quote. All that was lies that he was telling. Sit there and told Congress them lies. I told you, what kind of people support a liar? Cohen's statement was circulated in advance to and edited by members of the JDA before this statement was finalized. Early drafts contained a sentence stating, quote, the building project led me to make limited contacts with Russian government officials, end quote. In the final version of the statement, that line was deleted. In the final version of the statement, that line was deleted. Cohen thought he was told that it was a decision of the JDA to John, what is Donald Trump? What is that JDA thing? I'll go back and look it up later. Decision of the JDA to take out that sentence. and he did not push back on the deletion. Cohen recalled that he told the president's personal counsel that he would not contest a decision of the JDA. Cohen also recalled that in drafting his statement for Congress, he spoke with the president's personal counsel about a different issue that connected candidate Trump to Russia. Cohen's efforts to set up a meeting between Trump and Putin in New York during the 2015 United Nations General Assembly. In September 2015, Cohen had suggested the meeting to Trump, who told Cohen to reach out to Putin's office about it. Cohen spoke and emailed with a Russian official about a possible meeting and recalled that Trump asked him multiple times for updates on the proposed meeting with Putin. When Cohen called the Russian official a second time, she told him it would not follow proper protocol for Putin to meet with Trump. And Cohen relayed that message to Trump. Cohen anticipated he might be asked questions about the proposed Trump-Putin meeting when he testified before Congress, because he had talked about the potential meeting on Sean Hannity's radio show. Cohen recalled explaining to the president's personal counsel the, quote, whole story, end quote, of the attempt to set up a meeting between Trump and Putin and Trump's role in it. Cohen recalled that he and the president's personal counsel talked about keeping Trump out of the narrative, and the president's personal counsel told Cohen the story was not relevant and should not be included in his statement to Congress. Cohen said that his, quote, agenda, end quote, in submitting the statement to Congress with false representations about the Trump Tower Moscow project was to minimize links between the project and the president, give the false impression that the project, pardon me, we got to call them one of the conference rooms back. High def again. I'm going to have to get the other one back too.
This service is provided. Access code accepted. There are this service. Access code accepted. There are
Okay, we back. Yes. No, we didn't. We left off on page on the page that I started on 350. And they missed yesterday's meeting. We left off on page 322 on Monday. No, I know exactly where we left off. And it says, Cohen recalled, let me see here. I'm going to start at that second paragraph on page 354 again. Because we pretty much forgot about what was said. Okay. Cohen said that his, quote, agenda, end quote, in submitting the statement to Congress with false representations about the Trump Tower Moscow project was to minimize links between the project and the president, give the false impression that the project had ended before the first presidential primaries, and shut down further inquiry into Trump Tower Moscow with the aim of limiting the ongoing Russia investigations. Cohen said he wanted to protect the president and be loyal to him by not contradicting anything the president had said. In other words, he was trying to get his lie straight with what the president lied about. Huh? Is that Cohen recalled he was concerned that if he told the truth about getting a response from the Kremlin or speaking to candidate Trump about travel to Russia to pursue the project, he would contradict the message that no connection existed between Trump and Russia. And he rationalized his decision to provide false testimony because the deal never happened. He was not concerned that the story would be contradicted by individuals who knew it was false, because he was sticking to the party line adhered to by the whole group. Cohen wanted the support of the president and the White House, and he believed that following the party line would help put an end to the special counsel and congressional investigations. Between August 18th, 2017, when the statement was in an initial draft stage, and August 28th, 2017, when the statement was submitted to Congress, phone records reflect that Cohen spoke with the president's personal counsel almost daily. Pardon me. On August 27th, 2017, the day before Cohen submitted the statement to Congress, Cohen and the president's personal counsel had numerous contacts by phone, including calls lasting 3, 4, 6, 11, and 18 minutes. Cohen recalled telling the president's personal counsel, who did not have firsthand knowledge of the project, that there was more detail on Trump Tower Moscow that was not in the statement, including that there were more communications with Russia and more communications with candidate Trump than the statement reflected. Cohen stated that the president's personal counsel responded that it was not necessary to elaborate or include those details because the project did not progress, and that Cohen should keep his statement short and, quote, tight, unquote, and the matter would soon come to an end. Cohen recalled that the president's personal counsel said, quote, his client, end quote, appreciated Cohen, that Cohen should stay on message and not contradict the president, that there was no need to muddy the water, and that it was time to move on. Think over that. I mean, he says that don't contradict the president. Just move on, man. Cohen said he agreed because it was what he was expected to do. After Cohen later pleaded guilty to making false statements to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow project, this office sought to speak with the president's personal counsel about these conversations with Cohen, but counsel declined, citing potential privilege concerns. How can there be privilege to do illegal things, to sit up and lie? Especially when you say this is a nation of laws and not men. Okay. At the same time, we're on page 355, by the way. At the same time that Cohen finalized his written submission to Congress, he served as a source for a Washington Post story published on August 27, 2017. That reported pardon me. At the same time that Cohen finalized his written submission to Congress, he served as a source for a Washington Post story published on August 27, 2017, that reported in depth for the first time that the Trump organization was, quote, pursuing a plan to develop a massive Trump Tower in Moscow, end quote, at the same time as candidate Trump was, quote, running for president in late 2015 and early 2016, end quote. The article reported that, quote, the project was abandoned at the end of January 2016, just before the presidential primaries began. Several people familiar with the proposal said Cohen recalled that in speaking to the Post, he held to the false story that negotiations for the deal ceased in January 2016. Now, Cohen fessed up that he had lied. Okay, in page 356. On August 28th, 2017, Cohen submitted his statement. By the way, let me say this. Remember I told you all that you better learn to listen? You remember I told you that I was going to read this every day until it's finished? I said every day, didn't I? I kept my word. It's not my fault if you heard not every day, you heard every meeting. Even at the end of the meetings, I said, okay, we'll talk about it again tomorrow. We'll take this up tomorrow. See, now, for you to think that I left off on 323, it's because you missed yesterday's meeting. I told you that I was going to read this report every day until it's finished. I told y'all, you better learn to listen. That's why you always a day late and a dollar short. Okay.
Sir, you had a comment from Brother Bishop. He says he believes that JDA stands for Joint Deployment Agency.
Joint
Deployment
Agency. A joint defense agreement. Now that's better. Yes. A joint defense agreement. That they was all at that time, Cohen and Manafort and I think Donald Trump, they all had a joint defense agreement that they would share whatever the investigators or the prosecutors was asking them. They would collaborate with each other. You understand? And so, but anyway, on August 28th, well, how come you didn't tell me before? Okay. On August 28, 2017, Cohen submitted his statement about the Trump Tower Moscow project to Congress. Cohen did not recall talking to the president about the specifics of what the statement said or what Cohen would later testify to about Trump Tower Moscow. See, that's another sign that people lied to you. When they don't remember exactly what they said, it's because what they said, it has no connection to any truth in their mind. It was made up. But anyway, he recalled speaking to the president more generally about how he planned to stay on message in his testimony. On September 19th, 2017, in anticipation of his impending testimony, Cohen orchestrated the public release of his opening remarks to Congress, which criticized the allegations in the Steele material and claimed that the Trump Tower Moscow project, quote, was terminated in January of 2016, which occurred before the Iowa caucus and months before the very first primary, end quote. Cohen said the release of his opening remarks was intended to shape the narrative and let other people who might be witnesses know that Cohen was saying what Cohen was saying, so they could follow the same message. He put the lie out there that he was going to tell so that everybody that's involved would tell the same lie he was telling. You understand? Cohen said his decision was meant to mirror Jared Kushner's decision to release a statement in advance of Kushner's congressional testimony, which the president's personal counsel had told Cohen the president liked. Cohen recalled that on September 20th, 2017, after Cohen's opening remarks had been printed by the media, the president's personal counsel told him that the president was pleased with the Trump Tower Moscow statement that had gone out. The president was pleased with the lie they was telling. Okay. Like I said, you sit up and you support this man, and you know he don't mind lying, but somehow you think it's just like our people. I told you, you the new Negro. I'm talking to white people. Because look what the Negro did. The Negro know the white man enslaved him. That's not up for debate. He knows that the white man made property out of him. We know that. And yet, we hang this picture and others like it up in our house, in our living room, declaring that this is Jesus. We know that that's just another picture of the people who enslaved us. And yet, we know he lied to us about who we are. We know that. But somehow, we're stupid enough to think that he told us the truth about God. We let him teach us about God and let him give us a religion. And wonder why we ain't never got nowhere. And what did he tell us? The definition of a fool in his guesstimation, this is what he taught us, is somebody who keeps doing the same thing thinking they're going to get a different result or looking for a different result. We go from generation to generation believing what white people tell us, and we wonder why our condition never changes. We give our children to them to educate. Do you really think he's going to teach you how to be equal to him? Okay. Now look at these that trust Donald Trump. Donald Trump stands out in the public and just look at you in your face and lie. You know he's a liar. But somehow you think that when he's talking to you and lying those who support him, while he's lying to other people, he's telling you the truth. Oh, yeah? Okay. I'm through with that. So let's move on. What did he tell Michael Cohen? Look how he was talking to Michael Cohen. Cohen recalled that on September 20th, 2017, after Cohen's opening remarks had been printed by the media. Now remember, those remarks was a lie now. And the president knew it was a lie. The president's personal counsel told Michael Cohen, told him that the president was pleased with the Trump Tower Moscow statement that had gone out. That's a pat on the back to say, keep lying. Huh? All right. On October 24th and 25th, 2017, Cohen testified before Congress and repeated the false statements he had included in his written statement about Trump Tower Moscow. Phone records show that Cohen spoke with the president's personal counsel immediately after his testimony on both days. Why you suppose he didn't get on the phone with Trump? They knew that the investigation was going on and they didn't want to take no chances on it being recorded or whatnot. But, you know, it's just crazy. Okay, subtitle 4. The president sends messages of support to Cohen. In January 2018, the media reported that Cohen had arranged a $130,000 payment during the campaign to prevent a woman from publicly discussing an alleged sexual encounter she had with the president before he ran for office. This office did not investigate Cohen's campaign period payments to the woman, to woman. Beg your pardon? I didn't hear you. To women, excuse me. This office did not investigate Cohen's campaign period payments to women. However, those events was described here, those events as described here are potentially relevant to the president's and his personal counsel's interactions with Cohen as a witness who later began to cooperate with the government. On February 13, 2018, Cohen released a statement to news organizations that stated, quote, "In a private transaction in 2016, I used my own personal funds to facilitate a payment of $130,000 to the woman. Neither the Trump organization nor the Trump campaign was a party to the transaction with the woman, and neither reimbursed me for the payment, not either directly or indirectly," end quote. In congressional testimony on February 27, 2019, Cohen testified that he had discussed what to say about the payment with the president, and that the president had directed Cohen to say that the president, quote, "was not knowledgeable of Cohen's actions," end quote, in making the payment. On February 19, 2018, the day after the New York Times wrote a detailed story attributing the payment to Cohen and describing Cohen as the president's, quote, "fixer," end quote, Cohen received a text message from the president's personal counsel that stated, quote, "Client says thanks for what you do," end quote. On April 9th, 2018, FBI agents working with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York executed search warrants on Cohen's home, hotel room, and office. That day, the president spoke to reporters and said that he had, quote, "just heard that they broke into the office of one of my personal attorneys, a good man," end quote. The president called the searches, quote, a real disgrace, end quote, and said, quote, it's an attack on our country in a true sense. It's an attack on what we all stand for, end quote. Cohen said that after the searches, we on page 358, after the searches, he was concerned that he was, quote, an open book, end quote, that he did not want issues arising from the payments to women to, quote, come out, end quote, and that his false statements to Congress were, quote, a big concern, end quote. A few days after the searches, the president called Cohen. Pardon me. According to Cohen, the president said he wanted to, quote, check in, end quote, and asked if Cohen was okay. And the president encouraged Cohen to, quote, hang in there, end quote, and, quote, stay strong, end quote. Cohen also recalled that following the searches, he heard from individuals who were in touch with the president and relayed to Cohen the president's support for him. Cohen recalled that, redaction, a friend of the president's reached out to say that he was with, quote, the boss, end quote, in Mar-a-Lago. And the president had said, quote, he loves you, end quote, and not to worry. Referring to the president as the boss. Ain't that something? Anyway, man, this is rich. It says, Cohen recalled that, and it's another redaction, for the president, for Trump, for the Trump organization told him, quote, the boss loves you, end quote. And Cohen said that a friend of the president's told him, quote, everyone knows the boss has your back, end quote. on or about April 17, 2018, Cohen began speaking with an attorney, Robert Costello, who had a close relationship with Rudolph Giuliani, one of the president's personal lawyers. Costello told Cohen that he had a, quote, back channel of communications, end quote, to Giuliani, and that Giuliani had said the quote, channel, end quote, was, quote, crucial, end quote, and, quote, must be maintained, end quote. On April 20th, 2018, the New York Times published an article about the president's relationship with and treatment of Cohen. The president responded with a series of tweets predicting that Cohen would not, quote, flip, end quote. The New York Times and a third-rate reporter, this is what they saying Trump tweeted. The New York Times and a third-rate reporter are going out of their way to destroy Michael Cohen and his relationship with me in the hope that he will, quote unquote, flip. They use non-existent, quote unquote, sources, and a drunk, drugged up loser who hates Michael, a fine person with a wonderful family. Michael is a businessman, for his own account, lawyer, who I have always liked and respected. Most people will flip if the government lets them out of trouble. Even page 359, even if it means lying or making up stories. Sorry, I don't see Michael doing that, despite the horrible witch hunt and the dishonest media. In an email that day to Cohen, Costello wrote that he had spoken with Giuliani. Costello told Cohen that the conversation was, quote, very, very positive. You are loved. Pardon me, you are quote unquote loved. They are in our corner. Sleep well tonight. You have friends in high places. End quote. Cohen said that following these messages, he believed he had the support of the White House if he continued to toe the party line. And he determined to stay on message and be part of the team. At the time, Cohen's understood that his legal fees were still being paid by the Trump organization, which he said was important to him. Cohen believed he needed the power of the president to take care of him. So he needed to defend the president and stay on message. Cohen also recalled speaking with the president's personal counsel about pardons after the searches of his home and office had occurred, at a time when the media had reported that pardon discussions were occurring at the White House. Cohen told the president's personal counsel he had been a loyal lawyer and servant, and he said that after the searches, he was in an uncomfortable position and wanted to know what was in it for him. According to Cohen, the president's personal counsel responded that Cohen should stay on message, that the investigation was a witch hunt, and that this is what he wanted him to keep saying. According to Cohen, the president's personal counsel responded that Cohen should stay on message, that the investigation was a witch hunt, and that everything would be fine. Cohen understood, based on this conversation and previous conversations about pardons with the president's personal counsel, that as long as he stayed on message, he would take care. He would be taken care of by the president, either through a pardon or through the investigation being shut down. Page 370. Pardon me, 360. On April 24th, 2018, the president responded to a reporter's inquiry whether he would consider a pardon for Cohen with, quote, the president responded to a reporter's inquiry whether he would consider a pardon for Cohen with, quote, stupid question, end quote. On June 8th, 2018, the president said he, quote, hadn't even thought about, quote, end quote, pardons for Manafort or Cohen, and continued, quote, it's far too early to be thinking about that. They haven't been convicted of anything. There's nothing to pardon, end quote. And on June 15th, 2018, the president expressed sympathy for Cohen, Manafort, and Flynn in a press interview and said, quote, I feel badly about a lot of them because I think a lot of it is very unfair, end quote. Subtext 5. The president's conduct after Cohen began cooperating with the government. On July 2nd, 2018, ABC News reported, based on an, quote, exclusive, end quote, interview with Cohen, that Cohen, quote, strongly signaled his willingness to cooperate with special counsel Robert Mueller and federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York, even if that puts President Trump in jeopardy, end quote. That week, the media reported that Cohen had added an attorney to his legal team who previously had worked as a legal advisor to President Bill Clinton. Beginning on July 20th, 2018, the media reported on the existence of a recording Cohen had made of a conversation he had with candidate Trump about a payment made to a second woman who said she had had an affair with Trump. Now, a lot of the things that we saw in the news, if you recall, remember when the Trump organization had stopped paying for the lawyers for Michael Cohen? Do you remember that news that came out? Michael saw the handwriting on the wall, didn't he? Yeah. So beginning on July 20th, 2018, the media reported on the existence of a recording Cohen had made of a conversation he had with candidate Trump about a payment made to a second woman who said she had had an affair with Trump. On July 21st, 2018, the president responded, quote, "Inconceivable that the government would break into a lawyer's office early in the morning. Almost unheard of. Even more inconceivable that a lawyer would tape a client. Totally unheard of and perhaps illegal. The good news is that your favorite president did nothing wrong." Do you believe that? I'm not a crook. I mean, it sounds like Richard Nixon. But anyway, excuse me for comparing him to Richard Nixon. Richard Nixon wasn't nowhere close to this man. But anyway, the good news is that your favorite president did nothing wrong. And put an exclamation point there. End quote. On July 27th, 2018, after the media reported that Cohen was willing to inform investigators that Donald Trump Jr. told his father about the June 9th, 2016 meeting to get, quote, dirt, end quote, on Hillary Clinton, the president tweeted, quote, "So the fake news doesn't waste my time. So the fake news doesn't waste my time with dumb questions. No, I did not." And not is all caps. And no is all caps. No and I are all caps. And then small letter did. And then NOT, all caps. Not know of the meeting with my son. Don Jr. sounds to me like someone is trying to make up stories in order to get himself out of an unrelated jam. Taxi cabs, maybe. Talking about Cohen. He even retained Bill and Crooked Hillary's lawyer. Gee, I wonder if they helped him make the choice. End quote. On August 21st, 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty in the Southern District of New York to 8 felony charges, including 2 counts of campaign finance violations based on the payments he had made during the final weeks of the campaign to women who said they had affairs with the president. During the plea hearing, Cohen stated that he had worked, quote, at the direction of, end quote, the candidate in making those payments. The next day, the president contrasted Cohen's cooperation with Manafort's refusal to cooperate, tweeting, quote, "I feel very badly for Paul Manafort and his wonderful family." Quote unquote, justice took a 12-year-old tax case, among other things, applied tremendous pressure on him, and unlike Michael Cohen, he refused to, quote unquote, make up stories in order to get a, quote unquote, deal. Such respect for a brave man, explanation point, end quote. On September 17th, 2018, this office submitted written questions to the president that included questions about the Trump Tower Moscow project and attached Cohen's written statement to Congress and the letter of intent signed by the president. Among other issues, The questions asked the president to describe the timing and substance of discussions he had with Cohen about the project, whether they discussed a potential trip to Russia, and whether the president, quote, at any time directed or suggested that discussions with the Trump-Moscow project should cease, end quote, or whether the president was, quote, informed at any time that the project had been abandoned, end quote. On November 20th, we're on page 361, by the way. On November 20th, 2018, the president submitted written responses that did not answer those questions about Trump Tower Moscow directly, and did not provide any information about the timing of the candidates' discussions with Cohen about the project, or whether he participated. Pardon me, we got to get back in the room again. High def? Okay. You all pardon me. You did say high def, didn't you? Okay. Just a moment.
Access code accepted. There are 12 participants in the conference. The recording has started.
On November 20th, 2018, the president submitted written responses that did not answer those questions about Trump Tower Moscow directly, and did not provide any information about the timing of the candidates' discussions with Cohen about the project, or whether he participated in any discussions about the project being abandoned or no longer pursued. Instead, the president's answer stated in relevant part, I had few conversations with Mr. Cohen on this subject. As I recall, they were brief and they were not memorable. I was not enthused about the proposal, and I do not recall any discussion of travel to Russia in connection with it. I do not remember discussing it with anyone else at the Trump organization, although it is possible. I do not recall being aware at the time of any communications between Mr. Cohen and Felix Sater and any Russian government official regarding the letter of intent. On November 29th, this is page 362, on November 29th, 2018, Cohen pleaded guilty to making false statements to Congress based on his statements about the Trump Tower Moscow project. In a plea agreement with this office, Cohen agreed to, quote, provide truthful information regarding any and all matters as to which this office deems relevant, end quote. Later on November 29th, after Cohen's guilty plea had become public, the president spoke to reporters about the Trump Tower Moscow project, saying, I decided not to do the project. I decided ultimately not to do it. There would have been nothing wrong if I did do it. If I did do it, there would have been nothing wrong. That was my business. It was an option that I decided not to do. I decided not to do it. The primary reason I was focused on running for president. I was running my business while I was campaigning. There was a good chance that I wouldn't have won. In which case, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have won. In which case, I would have gone back into the business. And why should I lose lots of opportunities? The president also said that Cohen was, quote, a weak person. And by being weak, unlike other people that you watch, he is a weak person. And what he's trying to do is get a reduced sentence. So he's lying about a project that everybody knew about, end quote. Ain't this something? A man who done got counted to be done told over 10,000 lies since he been president got nerve enough to call somebody a liar. The president also brought up Cohen's written submission to Congress regarding the Trump Tower Moscow project. That he said Michael did a good job on. Remember that? Listen at him now. Quote, so here's the story. Go back and look at the paper that Michael Cohen wrote before he testified in the House and or Senate. It talked about his position, end quote. The president added, quote, even if Cohen was right, it doesn't matter because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign, end quote. Well, if he felt that way, why did he have to lie about it? Why did he say he didn't have no business in Russia? All he had terminated all that. Huh? Okay. In light of the president's public statements following Cohen's guilty plea that he, quote, decided not to do the project, end quote, this office again sought information from the president about whether he participated in any discussions about the project being abandoned or no longer pursued, including when he, quote, decided not to do the project, end quote, who he spoke to about that decision and what motivated the decision. Page 363. The office also again asked for the timing of the president's discussions with Cohen about Trump Tower Moscow and asked him to specify, quote, what period of the campaign, end quote, he was involved in discussions concerning the project. In response, the president's personal counsel declined to provide additional information from the president and stated that, quote, the president has fully answered the questions at issue, end quote. In the weeks following Cohen's plea and agreement to provide assistance to this office, the president repeatedly implied that Cohen's family members were guilty of crimes. On pardon me. On December 3rd, 2018, after Cohen had filed his sentencing memorandum, the president tweeted, quote, Michael Cohen asks judge for no prison time, end quote. You mean he can do all of the terrible, unrelated to Trump things having to do with fraud, big loans, taxis, etc., and not serve a long prison term? He makes up stories to get a quote, and to get a, it's already quoting in really. He makes up stories to get a, all caps, great and already, and then back to small letters. Great and already is all caps. A great and already reduced deal for himself and get his wife and father-in-law who has the money, and get his wife and father-in-law off scot-free. He lied for this outcome and should, in my opinion, serve a full and complete sentence. I wonder what he think he should serve for lying. I tried to say you don't need to put an ex-president in jail, but he seems to disagree with that. Well, anyway, on December 12th, 2018, Cohen was sentenced to 3 years of imprisonment. The next day, the president sent a series of tweets that said, "I never directed Michael Cohen to break the law. Those charges were just agreed to by him in order to embarrass the president and get a much reduced prison sentence, which he did, including the fact that his family was temporarily let off the hook. As a lawyer, Michael has great liability to me." And that's explanation point. On December 16, 2018, the president tweeted, quote, "Remember, Michael Cohen only became a rat, quote unquote rat, after the FBI." Hold on, got to get the room back again.
Access code accepted. There are 12 participants in the conference. The recording has started.
On December 16, 2018, the president tweeted, quote, "Remember, Michael Cohen only became a quote unquote rat after the FBI did something which was absolutely unthinkable and unheard of until the witch hunt was illegally started. They, quote, all caps, broke into an attorney's office." Explanation point. Now, back to normal. Why didn't they break into the DNC to get the server or Crooked's office? End quote. And well, they can't break into the White House, man. But anyway, private joke. I know y'all didn't get it. Donald Trump wanted to know why they didn't break into Crooked's office. And in January 2019, after the media reported that Cohen would provide public testimony in a congressional hearing, the president made additional public comments suggesting that Cohen's family members had committed crimes. This is page 364. In an interview on Fox on January 12, 2019, the president was asked whether he was worried about Cohen's testimony and responded, "In order to get his sentence reduced," Cohen says, quote, "I have an idea. I'll give you some information on the president," end quote. Well, there is no information, but he should give information maybe on his father-in-law, because that's the one that people want to look at, because where does that money? That's the money in the family. And I guess he didn't want to talk about his father-in-law. He's trying to get his sentence reduced. So it's pretty sad. It's weak. And it's very sad to watch a thing like that. On January 18th, 2019, the president tweeted, quote, "Kevin Corke and Fox News," Kevin Corke at Fox News, don't forget, Michael Cohen has already been convicted of perjury and fraud. And as recently as this week, the Wall Street Journal has suggested that he may have stolen tens of thousands of dollars, lying to reduce his jail time. Watch father-in-law. Explanation point. On January 23rd, 2019, Cohen postponed his congressional testimony, citing threats against his family. The next day, the president tweeted, quote, "So interesting that bad lawyer Michael Cohen, who sadly will not be testifying before Congress, is using the lawyer of crooked Hillary Clinton to represent him. Gee, how did that happen?" End quote. Also in January 2019, Giuliani gave press interviews that appeared to confirm Cohen's account that the Trump organization pursued the Trump Tower Moscow project well past January 2016. Giuliani stated that, quote, "It's our understanding that discussions about the Trump Moscow project went on through 2016. Weren't a lot of them, but there were conversations. Can't be sure of the exact date, but the president can remember having conversations with him about it. The president also remembers, yeah, probably up, could be up to as far as November, November, end quote." In an interview with the New York Times, Giuliani quoted the president as saying that the discussions regarding the Trump Moscow project were, quote, going on from, hold on, we're going to have to hook it back up. Hold on, I got to get the other conference room.
Access code accepted. There are 12 participants in the conference.
The president also remembers, yeah, probably up, could be up to as far as October, November. In an interview with the New York Times, Giuliani quoted the president as saying that the discussions regarding the Trump Moscow project were, quote, going on from the day I announced to the day I won, end quote. On January 21st, 2019, Giuliani issued a statement that said, quote, "My recent statements about discussions during the 2016 campaign between Michael Cohen and candidate Donald Trump about a potential Trump Moscow project, quote unquote project, were hypothetical and not based on conversations I had with the president." Boy, these people know they can lie. They're just a bunch of liars. Well, I'm telling you, this is something. And there's a tree in the road, so y'all go up 61 when you go home. In analyzing president's conduct related, let me tell you all something. Now, I've warned you about your disrespect of me. Now, I can't stop these tornadoes and stuff from getting you because it's out of my control. Allah said, whoever fall on me, they were going to be crushed. Now, you know, you've been safe around here. Now, if you don't like me, just leave me alone. You can always later on correct that if you don't get all here and act a fool. I told you Allah can thread the needle. He can send some tornadoes through here. They ain't got to hit nothing I own. You better quit tripping. Anyway, let's get back to this. In analyzing, this is an analysis, page 365. In analyzing the president's conduct related to Cohen. The following evidence is relevant to the following evidence is relevant to the elements of obstruction of justice. Now, subtext A, obstructive act. We gathered evidence of the president's conduct related to Cohen on two issues. And then it has I in parentheses. Whether the president or others aided or participated in Cohen's false statements to Congress. Well, now I know what that is. Roman numeral 1. Whether the president or others aided or participated in Cohen's false statements to Congress. And Roman numeral 2, whether the president took actions that would have the natural tendency to prevent Cohen from providing truthful information to the government. You remember when Cohen was going to testify before Congress and he counseled because he was afraid for his family? After Donald Trump had been out there talking about look at his father-in-law or something. Huh? Yeah. Okay. Another another instant. First, with Cohen, with regard to Cohen's false statements to Congress, while there is evidence described below that the president knew Cohen provided false testimony to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow project, the evidence available to us does not establish that the president directed or aided Cohen's false testimony. He made sure that he had his lawyer, that his lawyer was the one talking to Cohen and relaying things to him so that if it really came out, it would be some hearsay. You understand? Cohen said that his statements to Congress followed a, quote, party line, end quote, that developed within the campaign to align with the president's public statements distancing the president from Russia. Cohen also recalled that in speaking with the president in advance of testifying, he made it clear that he would stay on message, which Cohen believed they both understood would require false testimony. But Cohen said that he and the president did not explicitly discuss whether Cohen's testimony about the Trump Tower Moscow project would be or was false. And the president did not direct him to provide false testimony. He didn't say those words. That's what they're saying. Cohen also said he did not tell the president about the specifics of his planned testimony. During the time when his statement to Congress was being drafted and circulated to members of the Joint Defense Agreement, that JDA, Cohen did not speak directly to the president about the statement, but rather communicated with the president's personal counsel, as corroborated by phone records showing extensive communications between Cohen and the president's personal counsel before Cohen submitted his statement and when he testified before Congress. Cohen recalled that in his discussions with the president's personal counsel on August 27th, 2017, the day before Cohen's statement was submitted to Congress, Cohen said that there were more communications with Russia and more communications with candidate Trump than the statement reflected. Cohen recalled expressing some concern at that time. According to Cohen, the president's personal counsel, who did not have firsthand knowledge of the project, responded by saying that there was no need to muddy the water, that it was unnecessary to include those details because the project did not take place, and that Cohen should keep his statements short and tight, not elaborate, stay on message, and not contradict the president. Cohen's recollection of the content of those conversations is consistent with direction about the substance of Cohen's draft statement that appeared to come from members of the Joint Defense Agreement. For example, Cohen omitted any reference to his outreach to Russian government officials to set up a meeting between Trump and Putin during the United Nations General Assembly. And Cohen believed it was a decision of the JDA to delete the sentence. Quote, the sentence that they deleted, the building project led me to make limited contacts with Russian government officials, end quote. They deleted that. The president's personal counsel declined to provide us with his account of his conversations with Cohen. And why would he decline? Because he would have to lie. You understand? So the president's personal counsel declined to provide us with his account of his conversations with Cohen, and there is no evidence available to us that indicates that the president was aware of the information Cohen provided to the president's personal counsel. The president's conversations with his personal counsel were presumptively protected by attorney-client privilege, and we did not seek to obtain the contents of any such communications. The absence of evidence about the president and his counsel's conversations about the drafting of Cohen's statement precludes us from assessing what, if any, role the president played. Second, we considered whether the president took actions that would have the natural tendency to prevent Cohen from providing truthful information to criminal investigators or to Congress. Before Cohen began to cooperate with the government, the president publicly and privately urged Cohen to stay on message and not, quote unquote, flip. Cohen recalled the president's personal counsel telling him that he would be protected, so long as he did not go, quote, rogue, unquote. In the days and weeks that followed the April 2018 searches of Cohen's home and office, the president told reporters that Cohen was a, quote, good man, end quote, and said he was, quote, a fine person with a wonderful family who I always liked and respected, end quote. Privately, the president told Cohen to, quote, hang in there, end quote, and, quote, stay strong, end quote. People who were close to both Cohen and the president passed messages to Cohen that, quote, the president loves you, end quote. Quote, the boss loves you, end quote. And, quote, everyone knows the boss has your back, end quote. Through the president's personal counsel, the president also had previously told Cohen, quote, thanks for what you do, end quote. After Cohen provided information to the media about payments to women that, according to Cohen, both Cohen and the president knew was false. At that time, the Trump organization continued to pay Cohen's legal fees, which was important to Cohen. Cohen also recalled discussing the possibility of a pardon with the president's personal counsel, who told him to stay on message and everything would be fine. The president indicated in his public statements that a pardon had not been ruled out, and also stated publicly that quote, most people will flip if the government lets them out of trouble, end quote. But that he, quote, didn't see Michael doing that, end quote. Why would he think that Michael would be in trouble? Hadn't he been calling this a witch hunt? Hadn't he been calling this a farce? Well, why would he think Michael would be in trouble and would need to flip? Anyway, after it was reported that Cohen intended to cooperate with the government, however, the president accused Cohen of, quote, making up stories in order to get himself out of an unrelated jam, taxi cabs, maybe, question mark, end quote, called Cohen a quote unquote rat, and on multiple occasions publicly suggested that Cohen's family members had committed crimes. I thought he said Cohen had a great family. Well, it ain't great no more, right? Okay. The evidence concerning this sequence of events could support an inference that the president used inducements in the form of positive messages in an effort to get Cohen not to cooperate, and then turn to attacks and intimidation to deter the provision of information or undermine Cohen's credibility once Cohen began cooperating. Subtext B, nexus to an official proceeding. The president's relevant conduct towards Cohen occurred when the president knew the special counsel's office, Congress, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York were investigating Cohen's conduct. The president acknowledged through his public statements and tweets that Cohen potentially could cooperate with the government investigations. C, subtext C, intent. In analyzing the president's intent in his actions towards Cohen, we on page 367, by the way. In analyzing the president's intent in his actions towards Cohen as a potential witness, there is evidence that could support the inference that the president intended to discourage Cohen from cooperating with the government because Cohen's information would shed adverse, bad light on the president's campaign period conduct and statements. Cohen's false congressional testimony about the Trump Tower Moscow project was designed to minimize connections between the president and Russia and to help limit the congressional and Department of Justice Russia investigations, a goal that was in the president's interests as reflected by the president's own statements. During and after the campaign, the president made repeated statements that he had, quote, no business, end quote, in Russia, and said that there were, quote, no deals that could happen in Russia because we've stayed away, end quote. As Cohen knew, and as he recalled communicating to the president during the campaign, Cohen's pursuit of the Trump Tower Moscow project cast doubt on the accuracy or completeness of these statements. In connection with his guilty plea, Cohen admitted that he had multiple conversations with candidate Trump to give him status updates about the Trump Tower Moscow project, that the conversations continued through at least June 2016, and that he discussed with Trump possible travel to Russia to pursue the project. The conversations were not offhand, according to Cohen, because the project had the potential to be so lucrative In addition, text messages to and from Cohen and other records further established that Cohen's efforts to advance the project did not end in January 2016, and that in May and June of 2016, Cohen was considering the timing for possible trips to Russia by him and Trump in connection with the project. The evidence could support an inference that the president was aware of these facts at the time of Cohen's false statements to Congress. Cohen discussed the project with the president in early 2017 following media inquiries. Cohen recalled that on September 20th, 2017, the day after he released to the public his opening remarks to Congress, which said the project, quote, was terminated in January of 2016, end quote. The president's personal counsel told him the president was pleased with what Cohen had said about Trump Tower Moscow. And after Cohen's guilty plea, the president told reporters that he had ultimately decided not to do the project, which supports the inference that he remained aware of his own involvement in the project and the period during the campaign in which the project was being pursued. The president's public remarks following Cohen's guilty plea also suggest that the president may have been concerned about what Cohen told investigators about the Trump Tower Moscow project. At the time, the president submitted written answers to questions from this office about the project and other subjects. The media had reported that Cohen was cooperating with the government, but Cohen had not yet pleaded guilty to making false statements to Congress. Accordingly, it was not publicly known what information about the project Cohen had provided to the government. In his written answers, the president did not provide details about the timing and substance of his discussions with Cohen about the project and gave no indication that he had decided to no longer pursue the project. Yet, after Cohen pleaded guilty, the president publicly stated that he had personally made the decision to abandon the project. The president then declined to clarify the seeming discrepancy to our office or answer additional questions. The content and timing of the president's provision of information about his knowledge and actions regarding the Trump Tower Moscow project is evidence that the president may have been concerned about the information that Cohen could provide as a witness. The president's concerns about Cohen, page 368. The president's concern about Cohen cooperating may have been directed at the Southern District of New York investigation into other aspects of the president's dealings with Cohen, rather than an investigation of Trump Tower Moscow. There also is some evidence that the president's concern about Cohen cooperating was based on the president's stated belief that Cohen would provide false testimony against the president in an attempt to obtain a lesser sentence for his unrelated criminal conduct. The president tweeted that Manafort, unlike Cohen, refused to quote unquote break and quote make up stories in order to get a deal, quote unquote deal. And after Cohen pleaded guilty to making false statements to Congress, the president said, quote, what Cohen's trying to do is get a reduced sentence. So he's lying about a project that everybody knew about, end quote. But the president also appeared to defend the underlying conduct, saying, quote, even if Cohen was right, it doesn't matter because I was allowed to do whatever I wanted during the campaign, end quote. As described above, there is evidence that the president knew that Cohen had made false statements about the Trump Tower Moscow project and that Cohen did so to protect the president and minimize the president's connections to Russia during the campaign. Finally, the president's statements insinuating that members of Cohen's family committed crimes after Cohen began cooperating with the government could be viewed as an effort to retaliate against Cohen and chill further testimony adverse to the president by Cohen or others. It is possible that the president believes, as reflected in his tweets, that Cohen, quote, made up stories, end quote, in order to get a deal for himself and, quote, get his wife and father-in-law off scot-free, end quote. It also is possible that the president's mention of Cohen's wife and father-in-law were not intended to affect Cohen as a witness, but rather were part of a public relations strategy aimed at discrediting Cohen and deflecting attention away from the president on Cohen-related matters. But the president's suggestion that Cohen's family members committed crimes happened more than once, including just before Cohen was sentenced, at the same time as the president stated that Cohen, quote, should, in my opinion, serve a full and complete sentence, end quote. And again, just before Cohen was scheduled to testify before Congress. The timing of the statements supports an inference that they were intended, at least in part, to discourage Cohen from further cooperation. We may need about 5 extra minutes. We almost at our 20 pages. Okay. Now, subsection overreaching factual issues. Overarching factual issues. Although this report does not contain a traditional prosecution decision or declination decision, the evidence supports several general conclusions relevant to analysis of the facts concerning the president's course of conduct. 1, 3 features of this case render it atypical compared to the heartland obstruction of justice prosecutions brought by the Department of Justice. First, the conduct involved actions by the president. Some of the conduct did not implicate the president's constitutional authority and raises garden variety obstruction of justice issues. Other events we investigated, however, drew upon the president's Article 2 authority, which raised constitutional issues that we address in Volume 2, Section 3, Roman numeral 3b, infra. A factual analysis of that conduct would have to take into account both that the president's acts were facially lawful and that his position as head of the executive branch provides him with unique and powerful means of influencing official proceedings, subordinate officers, and potential witnesses. Second, many obstruction cases involve the attempted or actual cover-up. We're on page 369. Actual cover-up of an underlying crime. Personal criminal conduct can furnish strong evidence that the individual had an improper obstructive purpose. And then he cites cases for that. United States versus Willoughby, 860 F second 24, Second Circuit, 1988. Or that he contemplated an effect on an official proceeding. And he thought about what it would have on it, a proceeding, what kind of effect it would have. But proof of such a crime is not an element of an obstruction offense. In C, United States versus Greer, 872 F 3rd, and it tells you, stating in applying the obstruction sentencing guideline that, quote, obstruction of a criminal investigation is punishable even if the prosecution is ultimately unsuccessful, or even if the if it don't work, if the obstruction act don't work, even if the prosecution is ultimately unsuccessful, or even if the investigation ultimately reveals no underlying crime. End quote. Obstruction of justice can be motivated by a desire to protect non-criminal personal interests, to protect against investigations where underlying criminal liability falls into a gray area, or to avoid personal embarrassment. The injury to the integrity of the justice system is the same, regardless of whether a person committed an underlying wrong. Don't have to be no crime. It's just the fact that you got in the way of the investigation. In this investigation, the evidence does not establish that the president was involved in an underlying crime related to Russia election interference, but the evidence does point to a range of other possible personal motives animating the president's conduct. These include concerns that continued investigation would call into question the legitimacy of his election and potential uncertainty about whether certain events, such as advance notice of WikiLeaks release of hacked information on the June 9, 2016 meeting between senior campaign officials and Russians, could be seen as criminal activity by the president, his campaign, or his family. Third, many of the president's acts directed at witnesses, including discouragement of cooperation with the government and suggestions of possible future pardons, occurred in public view. While it may be more difficult to establish that public facing acts were motivated by a corrupt intent, the president's power to influence actions, persons, and events is enhanced by his unique ability to attract attention through use of mass communications. And no principle of law excludes public acts from the scope of obstruction statutes. If the likely effect of the act is to intimidate witnesses or alter their testimony, the justice system's integrity is equally threatened. He's letting you know that this man obstructed justice. Although the events were investigated involved although the events we investigated involved discrete acts, e.g., the president's statement to Comey about the Flynn investigation, his termination of Comey, and his efforts to remove the special counsel, it is important to view the president's pattern of conduct as a whole. That pattern sheds light on the nature of the president's acts and the inferences that can be drawn about his intent. Our investigation found multiple acts by the president that were capable of exerting undue influence over law enforcement investigations, including the Russian interference and obstruction investigations. The incidents were often carried out through one-on-one meetings in which the president sought to use his official power outside of usual channels. These actions ranged from efforts to remove the special counsel and to reverse the effect of the attorney general's recusal, to the attempted use of official power to limit the scope of the investigation, to direct and indirect contacts with witnesses with the potential to influence their testimony. Viewing the acts collectively can help to illuminate their significance. For example, the president's direction to McGahn to have the special counsel removed was followed almost immediately by his direction to Lewandowski to tell the attorney general to limit the scope of the Russia investigation to prospective election interference only. A temporal connection that suggests that both acts were taken with a related purpose with respect to the investigation. Page 370. The president's efforts to influence the investigation were mostly unsuccessful, but that is largely because the persons who surrounded the president declined to carry out orders or accede to his requests. Comey did not end the investigation of Flynn, which ultimately resulted in Flynn's prosecution and conviction for lying to the FBI. McGahn did not tell the acting attorney general that the special counsel must be removed, but was instead prepared to resign over the president's order. Lewandowski and Dearborn did not deliver the president's message to Sessions that he should confine the Russia investigation to future election meddling only. And McGahn refused to recede from his recollections about events surrounding the president's direction to have the special counsel removed. Despite the president's multiple demands that he do so, consistent with that pattern, the evidence we obtained would not support potential obstruction charges against the president's aides and associates beyond those already filed. In considering the full, in other words, Don McGahn and them who didn't follow his instructions refused to help him commit obstruction. That's what the special counsel is saying. In considering the full scope of the conduct we investigated, the president's actions can be divided into two distinct phases reflecting a possible shift in the president's motives. In the first phase, before the president fired Comey, the president had been assured that the FBI had not opened an investigation of him personally. The president deemed it critically important to make public that he was not under investigation. And he included that information in his termination letter to Comey after other efforts to have that information disclosed were unsuccessful. Soon after he fired, let me stop here. After he couldn't get nobody to publicly say that he was not under investigation, he put it in his own statement. Soon after he fired Comey, however, the president became aware that investigators were conducting an obstruction of justice inquiry into his own conduct. That awareness marked a significant change in the president's conduct and the start of a second phase action. You know, he wasn't even supposed to know that they was investigating that. And if, in normal circumstances, he wouldn't have known it. But anyway, what's normal about this presidency? The president launched public attacks on the investigation and individuals involved in it who could possess evidence adverse to the president, while in private, the president engaged in a series of targeted efforts to control the investigation. For instance, the president attempted to remove the special counsel. He sought to have Attorney General Sessions unrecuse himself and limit the investigation. He sought to prevent public disclosure of information about the June 9th, 2016 meeting between Russians and campaign officials. And he used public forums to attack potential witnesses who might offer adverse information and to praise witnesses who declined to cooperate with the government. Judgments about the nature of the president's motives during each phase would be informed by the totality of the evidence. The president's, now this next subtitle 3, legal defenses to the application of obstruction of justice statutes to the president. The president's personal counsel has written to this office to advance statutory and constitutional defenses to the potential application of the obstruction of justice statutes to the president's conduct. As a statutory matter, the president's counsel has argued that we're on page 371. We got one more page to go. The president's personal counsel has written to this office to advance statutory constitutional defenses to the potential application of the obstruction of justice statutes to the president's conduct. As a statutory matter, the president's counsel has argued that a core obstruction of justice statute, 18 U.S.C. South Section 1512 C 2, does not cover the president's actions. As a constitutional matter, the president's counsel argued that the president cannot obstruct justice by exercising his constitutional authority to close Department of Justice investigations or terminate the FBI director. How ludicrous is that? That's like saying the president can't commit treason. The president can't lie. The president can't do no wrong. The president is above the law. Anyway, let's read on. As a constitutional matter, the president's counsel argued that the president cannot obstruct justice by exercising his constitutional authority to close Department of Justice investigations or terminate the FBI director. Whenever you start talking about a president cannot close down an investigation or can close down investigations and it's not obstruction, well, that would be so if the investigation wasn't about him and he had knowledge that it was something that was improper. That's his duty to not let the Justice Department persecute or prosecute people or just go after people on witch hunts. But when you start talking about the president got a right to tell the Justice Department that they can't investigate him, well, that's saying that you don't believe in your own system. The system of America is called a system of checks and balances. That everybody can be checked. Everybody can be investigated. Everybody can be brought to account for their actions. Anytime you got a person with power that cannot be put in check, then you got a dictator. You ain't got no president. You got a dictator. And it says, under that view, any statute that restricts the president's exercise of those powers would impermissibly intrude on the president's constitutional role. The president's counsel has conceded that the president may be subject to criminal laws that do not directly involve exercises of his Article 2 authority, such as laws prohibiting bribing witnesses or suborning perjury. But counsel has made a categorical argument that, quote, the president's exercise of his constitutional authority here to terminate an FBI director and to close investigations cannot constitutionally constitute obstruction of justice, end quote. In analyzing counsel's statutory arguments, we concluded that the president's proposed interpretation of section 1512C2 is contrary to the litigating position of the Department of Justice and is not supported by principles of statutory construction. In other words, that's a baseless argument they're putting up. As for the constitutional arguments, we recognize that the Department of Justice and the courts have not definitively resolved these constitutional issues. We therefore analyzed the president's position through the framework of Supreme Court precedent and addressing the separation of powers. Under that framework, we concluded Article 2 of the Constitution does not categorically and permanently immunize the president from potential liability for the conduct that we investigated. Rather, our analysis led us to conclude that the obstruction of justice statutes can validly prohibit a president's corrupt efforts to use his official powers to curtail, end, or interfere with an investigation. Subtitle A, statutory defense. We're on page 372. Statutory defenses to the application of obstruction of justice provisions to the conduct under investigation. The obstruction of justice statute most readily applicable to our investigation is 18 U.S.C. South Section 1512C2. Section 1512C provides whoever corruptly, one, alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record, document, or other object, or attempts to do so with the intent to impair the object's integrity or availability for use in an official proceeding. That's what they're doing with the report itself now. Trying to keep the Congress from seeing what the special counsel came up with. How can the Congress make a decision about and show the American people that this ain't political, but based on facts, whether they refuse to impeach or decide to impeach? How can they do that if the report is being withheld from them? If any part of it is being withheld from them, then all of the evidence is not being presented. So how can they make a judgment when there's evidence being hidden from them by the president and the attorney general? Okay. Otherwise, too, or it says, if whosoever corruptly alters, destroys, mutilates, or conceals a record, document, or other object, or attempts to do so with the intent to impair the object's integrity or availability for use in an official proceeding, or otherwise obstructs, influences, or impedes any official proceeding, or attempts to do so, shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both. Now that's the Attorney General and the President are doing. They trying to impede Congress's ability to conduct oversight. They are withholding evidence that may lead to an impeachment. Okay. The Department of Justice has taken the position that Section 1512C2 states a broad, independent, and unqualified prohibition on obstruction of justice, while defendants have argued that subsection C2 should be read to cover only acts that would impair the availability or integrity of evidence, because that is subsection C and one's focus. Strong arguments weigh against that proposed limitation. While defendants have argued that subsection C2 should be read to cover only acts that would impair the availability of or integrity of evidence, because that is subsection C1's focus, strong arguments weigh against that proposed limitation. The text of section 1512C2 confirms that its sweep is not tethered to section 1512C1. Courts have so interpreted it. Its history does not counsel otherwise, and no principle of statutory construction dictates a contrary view. On its face, therefore, section 1512C2 applies to all corrupt means of obstructing a proceeding, pending or contemplated, including by improper exercises of official power. In addition, other statutory provisions that are potentially applicable to certain conduct we investigated broadly prohibit obstruction of proceedings that are pending before courts, grand juries, and Congress. Then it gives you C 18 USC South Section 1503 and 1505. Congress has also specifically prohibited witness tampering. See South 18 USC South Section 1512B. Subtext. Number one, the text of section 1512C2 prohibits a broad range of obstructive acts. Several textual features of section 1512C2 support the conclusion that the provision broadly prohibits corrupt means of obstructing justice and is not limited by the more specific prohibitions in section 1512C1, which focus on evidence impairment. First, the text of section 1512C2 is unqualified. It reaches acts that obstruct, quote, obstruct, influence, or impede any official proceeding. When committed, end quote, when committed, quote, corruptly, end quote. Nothing in section 15C2 text limits the provision to acts that would impair the integrity or availability of evidence for use in an official proceeding. In contrast, section 1512C1 explicitly includes the requirement that the defendant act, quote, with the intent to impair the object's integrity or availability. No, well, they acting right now with the intent to impair the report by not giving the Congress the full report. The unredacted report. For that, the Congress needs the whole thing in order to understand it and convey to the American people what the findings were. But anyway, we're going to take it up there tomorrow. If it pleases Allah, we will, by the time Sunday get here, we'll probably be through with this. We leaving off on page 372. So we're down to around now, what, about 70 more pages? See, it didn't take us that long to get through this. So I'm going to let you go. And may Allah bless us all and keep us safe and in our right minds. And if it pleases Allah, we will discuss this again tomorrow. Thursday, tomorrow. May Allah's salam alaikum.